Do you consider yourself, Steve, a China whisperer?
No, I'm just like a hardworking guy, and I don't whisper much, I try, sort of in some of my spare time, to make sure things work as well as they can. This is a luxury you have when you're older, and you know more people, and it's pretty effortless.
Right. Well, and you have, clearly you have quite a bit of influence, and we've seen, the relationship that you've developed with the president. You were on his strategic forum. Many people here consider you perhaps one of the, if not the, U.S. executive that has sort of the most understanding or maybe deepest relationship between, the U.S. and China. I'm curious, seeing what you're seeing now, which is, Trump coming out with more tariffs on China. He's surrounding himself, Steve, now more with people who see China more as a threat than a friend. What do you want to say to the president? Have you talked with him recently about these moves?
Well, I'm not going to tell you and your vast audience, Betty, exactly.
Thank you for the compliment, Steve.
Right, exactly what I'm saying to anybody in particular. But
are you disappointed?
I think there's no doubt that there is a serious imbalance between the U.S. and China in terms of market access and tariff levels. And non-tariff barriers, investment limitations. And part of this happens in the natural course of things, that when you're a less developed country, then you have higher tariff walls. We did that in the United States in the 19th century, and it helped build the United States behind the protection of those restrictions. The issue now is that with China having such a large economy, even though per capita it's not as big as one would think, but in terms of aggregate size, it's the second biggest in the world, and it's growing at double the rate of any developed economy. That it's sort of time to make that change, to make that transition. And I think that the senior people in China well understand that, because it's just in their interest as well as other countries' interest. Because if you don't normalize this, then populism develops in developed world, and then the people in those populations demand some kind of action.
And then it actually swings all the way back to the other side.
And then it starts spinning around, and everybody's a loser.
So if I can infer then from what you're saying, Steve, are you saying that there could be some justification for these tariffs here to make it a more level playing field, or no?
Well, I didn't talk about tariffs.
Okay.
What I was saying is you need a normalization of access between countries. It's called fair trade. In other words, no one country should be keeping somebody else more or less out while they get to go in. It's not fair. So I think this is recognized.
So we need a more level playing field.
You need a level playing field, and the best products and services win. And I think that's all that's trying to be accomplished. And this will take some period of time, but responsible, intelligent people know that this is something that's going to have to be done, and it should be done in an orderly and thoughtful way, and I'm hopeful that will be the case.
Not to belabor this point, but if not tariffs, Steve, then what other levers could be pulled to level this playing field between the two countries?
There are lots of levers to get somebody's attention. My sense is that attention has been gotten, and we should be moving on to an execution phase, which would be good for everyone.
Are you still bullish on China?
Well, I think the Chinese are highly unusual. No one in history has ever grown at this rate since the normalization of China around 1980. It's gone from just about, 2% of global GDP to, something like 14. It's amazing.
Right.
And the growth rates are high. The people are adaptable. They don't mind working really hard for really long. And there's a will to win.
And seeing what we saw with the NPC so far with President Xi and the essentially unlimited term that he's now been given, the right move for China, in your view?
Well, that's up to the Chinese, not for outsiders.